It is episode 7. Are you going to intro one of these times, or is it always on me? I feel like I have to hold the brunt of this podcast
Can
down.
I do a Michael McDonald intro?
Yes, please do.
Turn it to be real now. Episode 7. Yeah.
Poor Michael McDonald. You love Michael McDonald.
Couldn't not be fair now.
Michael McDonald and Aaron Neville are your two.
It's time for the holidays.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know much,
Yeah.
but I know I love you. Okay, we'll get to that later. This is the holiday episode.
Holiday episode. Happy holidays, Steve.
Happy holidays, everybody.
Look at us. We're all ready to get
Just
down for Christmas.
Burned out.
Healthcare
bills are maxed out.
Yeah. So I had these glasses. I super glued one side this morning on the way here, and then I got here and the other side broke. So that's kind of how I feel this season, honestly.
Yeah.
Got the lights up barely.
Yeah.
Kind of late.
Have you ever felt on top of
The
it
timers
during the
are all
seasons?
off.
Have you ever been like, I got this one?
Usually, I will say, yeah, I have.
When?
I mean, not like I was never ready early. Never been an early person. But, in previous years, when you're just working, like, for a paycheck or whatever, it's like a little easier to meter because you know what to expect. When you are,
And you get paid on time. Unlike when you own your own business and you just simply don't get paid, so that you can't afford.
You're
presents.
not waiting for someone to pay their invoice. Yeah,
Hello,
that is
mommy.
also
Where's
different.
the presents this year under the stocking?
When you're running a business, it's just chaos. So it's harder to fit things in the margins because the margins get smaller and smaller and smaller. And
Is that a guilt trip for everybody who we're
Trying
going
to
to
make
raise
you
our
feel
prices
bad.
January 1st?
Yeah, taking care of all the things. No, it is a little crazier this season than normal. And I'm also I sort of feel like whatever. Like it is kind of a hot mess.
Let's admit, mothers and fathers oftentimes have different stress levels during the holidays.
That is true. Yeah.
I would say that no matter how hard I try to say that I feel you, I'm there to support you. I like to help lift things.
You do. There is a little bit that I sent you the other day from Leanne Morgan, the comedian, where she's
Yes.
like, I do all the work, and my husband comes up on December 24th and says,
How can I help?
can I help you?
Yeah.
And she wants to murder him. And that's kind of how it goes sometimes.
Well, don't murder me. I think it's just okay to ask for help. Just ask for help.
Murder you in your sleep.
Yeah, just like at work. Hey, I need help. It's one of those things. I
Yeah.
can't plan. I need a planning meeting. I need an agenda,
Yeah.
and I need a project manager.
All that happens at home, too.
Yeah.
Okay. Anyway, so enough about that. Christmas.
Nice sweater, by the way.
Oh, thank you.
Wu-Tang's pretty
Cash
good.
rules everything around me, Steve.
She even quotes a lyric because she knew people might do a reference check. ODB. Beautiful.
That's right. All right. So today, what did we test? We are testing so much all the time. Sometimes I forget what we're testing.
I believe last week we tested gonorrhea. Cut.
You tested it?
We talked about it.
I hope not.
We talked about
I hope you didn't test it.
We'll restart that.
Tested how? That's what I want to know.
Last week we talked about all sorts of tests. I think the one that was really interesting to me that I want to bring to light with you is the video test and talking about YouTube.
Yeah.
I will say it's really interesting because I shared with you that I did that same poll about a year before. Nobody answered with YouTube.
What was the poll?
The poll said, where do you get your video from? LinkedIn, YouTube, or I can't remember the other one. It was maybe TikTok or Instagram.
Yeah.
And overwhelming sort of Instagram, 33%, YouTube, 68%, 0% from LinkedIn. Next
Zero.
poll.
Yeah.
Do you use the regular feed? And we'll show these polls here for proof, right? I think it helps to show the polls.
Sure.
I like to even look at the polls. I'm not going to show you guys because I don't want to out them. I like to look who answers, what their titles are, and then really look at, does it matter, or is this just kind of a poll? 50 people, lots of executives. When I said, do you prefer regular feed or the video feed? 50 said regular feed, 0 said video feed for LinkedIn.
And that's interesting because I keep following all these folks that are like LinkedIn gurus. And hey, I just went to the LinkedIn headquarters and photos in front of LinkedIn. And they all say LinkedIn is all in on video, all in. But the users don't seem to be all in on video, which is interesting.
It is going to be.
Are they going to force it down our throats?
Well, I think it's going to be video no matter what. I think what we're seeing right now is like the ageism is real. And LinkedIn is the one social platform where the majority of the people make a certain income, are in a certain age bracket, and are educated.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying it's good or bad.
And
it's
they don't
just
want to be stupid on video.
Yeah, it's the profile of the people, right? Like It's
They don't wanna
also
look
a
like
much
us right
bigger
now?
sales cycle. Like you don't click to buy like in B2B. Like it's kind of like, oh, I got to get to know you. Then do I trust you?
Yeah.
There's 50 of you. You kind of all look the same. It used to be take a good profile picture, right?
Yeah, be profesh.
Have a great banner.
Yeah.
Cool, right? That plus have all your content organized, your best stuff at the top, plus have a YouTube channel with all your playlists curated perfectly so people can find that plus. And then it's like, now you're like, what?
Yeah.
And so I think it's wild.
I did see, and maybe it's just because I've been trying to rework my feed a little bit. I've seen some pretty funny stuff on LinkedIn the last few days. Like there was a sales guy that's doing like Post Malone lip syncs and raps, and it was pretty funny.
If you're funny, be funny.
Yeah. Not all, I don't want to feed full of that, but I was like, well, this is kind of welcome relief from the typical tweet shots and stuff that you see.
It's like life though. Don't you want a little bit of that, but not too much?
Yeah. Well, yeah. And especially not on LinkedIn. I expect it on TikTok.
Yeah.
Right. And like, I think it's just sort of people figuring out, what do we do now on this platform? We do want to see video. We do want to get to know people. We want to know founder stories. We want to get to know if I can trust you. Do you know what you're talking about? And also, like, it's still a professional platform, and the kind of the emotional part of us wants to be entertained a little bit, right?
Yeah.
So it's sort of like finding that balance, and LinkedIn's just a different platform. It's different than TikTok or Facebook or Insta or Blue Sky.
Found that out too, and we just talk about A/B testing. We took a 30-second micro that had a little funny in it with an F word, right?
Yeah.
Like 211 views on LinkedIn. Like it bombed like it was terrible. And then I went over to TikTok, and that same video had 78 likes, 4,800 views. But you'd have to look at it and go, but I know we can get revenue out of a LinkedIn post.
Yeah.
I don't know how to make revenue out of a TikTok. I've had a lot of people on LinkedIn come to me, though. When I say a lot, probably 5 or 10 over the years, right?
Yep.
That's a lot where I'm from. And they'll say, like, hey, I love your TikTok stuff. And I'm like, oh, cool.
Yeah.
Like, because it usually is different. It's usually me talking about some shit. Usually working out something that I don't think LinkedIn would want. I just don't give a fuck now.
You're working out your material on TikTok?
Working on my demons. Working on my demons, yeah.
You know what's interesting? I've been thinking about this the last couple of days because we've been talking about Reddit and
people update.
So there's a few things that I notice about you and the way that you sell that I think is really interesting. And you're kind of like I think of myself, I don't think of people as dogs, but if I was a dog, I'm definitely a cross between like a pit bull and a bulldog because I'm stubborn, I'm loyal. I will fucking bite you if you cross me.
Verified.
You are not that way, but except in sales, it is insane to watch you. I don't know what kind of dog it would be, but you're just like, any little place and you just keep following it. Like you keep digging where most people would be like, all right, there's nothing there. You'll dig it and you'll find it. Like it's a crazy thing to watch. Like you've gone into Reddit, you've gone into Blue Sky, you're finding out like, how can I DM and make money? Mm-hmm. And it's so smart because a lot of people, and LinkedIn's hard right now. It is getting harder. And I think someone this morning said like, I feel like it's a cliff. Like you're either going to fall off, you're going to be like, this isn't worth it. Or you'll keep going. And
the comparison thing is hard, though. I think that's where I would say, compared to what? Like, what are you doing it for? Is it for revenue? Because if it's revenue, compared to what? Yeah. If I'm getting revenue at all, then if I'm enjoying it, I'd have to say, well, okay, what are the other things I'm doing?
Yeah.
Mailers. Do I enjoy putting out mailers? I don't know. I don't even do it, right? I love the result, right? LinkedIn's work.
So tell me about what you've been doing on Reddit and Blue Sky and thinking about like from a sales perspective, because they're also different platforms, right? You can't go on Reddit and be like, hey, I'm business X.
Can't.
You will get roasted.
Yeah.
How do you do it? What are you doing?
Well, I go out there and you got to be curious and you usually are looking for somebody and I would say you have to compensate. So what I did is we have a customer who's looking at something and we're looking at just finding out more and digging deeper on like what is it that people really want.
Yeah.
And so I went and said, hey, this is what we're looking for. I'm looking for specific owners of e-com who ship more than 40 shipments a day, non-alcohol, non-weed, like shit that is shippable, right? From a 3PL, which is like having people do it for you. Think of a box of the month club. Our client does that for like 1,700 box of the month clubs. And so I interviewed one the other day and I found some things out and I was like, oh, not a fit. I'd rather find out now I know now not to go after those companies, right? So we're finding out and investing the money more into our customer.
So you're doing some testing. You're doing some
yeah. Well, and this morning I'm getting assaulted by these other two people who are like, I want to interview now because I'm offering money. And I'm like, okay, I don't want to interview people who are that desperate for a $50 gift card. I don't think they're successful at e-com.
Yeah.
And then I was like, oh, Reddit's different. Because their name's not on it. And they're just like, I'm on a Zoom call. Where are you? And I'm like, it's next week. And he's like, but I said I had time today. And I'm just like, who are you?
Yeah.
What is your name? Sergio? And I'm just like, oh. And so you meet a lot of seedy people, because I will say LinkedIn, and going back to that, you really know who they are. Yeah. And they have to kind of not be a dipshit, or you're going to put them out and say don't do business with this person.
Right.
And I love that about LinkedIn. I love that. It's professional. You saw it. I got roasted in a second on Reddit. They were waiting for me. They're like, Steve Schmidt's here. They're like, loser.
Yeah.
And I was like, and it's great. I was like, okay, cool. But I'd rather be a person.
But one of our clients did think of something smart, and they're in a very specific niche in the staffing space, right? Dealing with some California laws. And so they were like, well, maybe I can go to Reddit and kind of get a pulse, see what people see how they're talking, see what questions they have, say should I file this person as a 1099 or are they a W-4, and see what questions people are asking and see what companies they might be associated with. And then I can go to LinkedIn and find that company or find those
Because when they hit the DMs,
and that's smart,
you're
right?
good. Yeah.
That's really smart. So using it as a research tool is really a smart way to operate or prospect,
but
right?
you got to, the best part is this, and we talked about this on the way here. You ultimately have to do it without expecting a thing and always serving other people. And that's the trick. Most salespeople don't want to do that.
Oh,
you have to be
that's
knowledgeable.
hard.
You have to answer 200 questions probably before anybody says, oh, you do that?
Yeah, yeah.
And you can't say I do that in the
It's a
Reddit
long
thread.
game.
And so it's is it a subreddit thread? And by the way, now you're in the levels, right? Because now I'm like, oh shit, I did not want another social media app, and Reddit's pretty cool.
You think it's cool?
It's anything you spend time into and you unlock the thing, whether it's a video game.
Okay.
And then you're and Caleb, you know what I'm talking about, right?
I don't know, man.
Well,
I don't why do you think
guys?
Reddit's cool? I think it's interesting. I always look at all these things from a little bit of a
male more than female.
Okay.
And I will say women are more visual, and they go for more visual channels. And I hate to simplify it to Instagram. Reddit seems to be where both females and males go, and they kind of talk shit. And women talk shit plenty, but I think it's about things that are very bro-y, right?
Okay.
You're wrong, you're right, this, that. And it's very argumentative versus explaining why you're wrong or explaining a theory, at least in sales. I will say though, if you want to go dive into astrology, there are channels with 500,000 people in it, and it's fascinating, right? But who has time for it? So really you got to set it up, get your channels down, probably pick 5 or 10 and be all right, this is a commitment.
Yeah.
But I could totally see where if we were to staff one person on Reddit, one person on TikTok, one person on every social channel, and then be able to monitor that and see how much contributes it, that I almost guarantee you Reddit would be as high, if not higher than LinkedIn.
So tell me what you're experiencing on the TikTok these days, because it's interesting. When I was looking at the spends for Christmas, I mean, it is phenomenal, what is happening on the TikTok shops and the live shopping, that's happening there. Yeah. I've not done any live shopping. I know you've bought a vacuum and some other things.
I did not get the refund
questionable
either when I sent
at
it back.
best. You're like, this thing doesn't fucking work.
Yeah, the battery didn't work. Yeah. It didn't work. And then I said, what do you do? And they're like, oh, you got to contact the creator who owns the store. And I was like, oh, shit. It's just multi-level marketing, right? Yeah. So speaking of 3PL,
$100 million in a single day on Black Friday was spent on
break
TikTok.
it down further. Great for TikTok. What does the average creator make?
I have no idea.
I bet you nothing, right? And it's just like everything else. Most of them make nothing. They're unemployed. They want attention. And they might make $40 selling vacuum cleaners just to say holy shit, I feel great about myself. Look at all these people liking my post, right? And that's great because that's selling.
Gary Vee says if he was going to start over right now, he'd be live selling on TikTok all day.
Why would he have to start over? Why doesn't he actually just do it?
I'm just saying,
Gary Vee says a lot of shit.
30,000 live selling sessions on Black Friday alone.
Okay.
I think that's interesting.
But now let's talk
B2C.
B2B. Why do you think B2C works, Melissa? And think females now. Think makeup. Not that females are the only ones who wear makeup, but think about I want to buy this. because there's some emotional chord struck. You got me in. I'm going to buy this thing, whether it's a gift. Like that's to me where they're really able to capture these people are sucking you in, and you're like, that's me. That is me. That's my bathroom. I have that problem with my toilet, and I don't want to ever clean it too. I want to get the robo scrubber. God, I want that thing now.
The robo scrubber.
The hand that goes all over and do your toilet, do your tub. And I'm just like, zzz.
I haven't seen the robo scrubber, but I did buy something. I bought something at Target similar, and it sucks. It's like $50 and it's 2 thumbs down. Go back. I'm still back doing the little corner.
So we have a common theme here. I don't think we've had a very positive experience with either of us with these things, these devices.
Yeah. So a lot of the devices promise more than what they
Are you saying that they
do.
capture like this emotional point though at a dollar amount that seems reasonable enough to go,
sure, yeah,
$60. Now, what would it take in business to say I'm going to click this thing? $5,000? No, nobody does that.
Right.
That's the difference is now you have to go meet the person. They can't be a dipshit in a trailer park in Alabama smoking crack. They actually have to show up. And now it's like, oh, that's B2B, right?
Yeah.
Not B2C, which is like B to anywhere, which is amazing, but it's very competitive. And there are no rules. So there's just like these programs, these people are like, oh, I'm going to represent this vacuum.
Yeah. Well, I've seen some really smart folks find ways to build an audience on Insta, TikTok. There is what is the gal that does the finance? It's like your best friend, your rich best friend or something. And she started on TikTok, realized that TikTok may or may not be around for a long time, and moved to Insta and Facebook and other platforms. And she's blown up and has an offering.
What do you think is it about her though? Let's talk about that. What's different about her than everybody else who wants to be her?
Well, one, she focused on millennials. A lot of the folks in the finance space were male and older and white, frankly. So she captured an audience for females and millennials.
Okay.
And what was interesting for her is she's like, I focus on the best friend part. I don't always focus on the rich part. So I talk to you like I would talk to my best friend about giving them advice. Like, here's what I would do.
Yeah.
Like real talk kind of stuff. But I mean, I engaged. This was a year and a half ago. There was a guy that I was following who did parenting advice on Instagram.
Yep.
And his videos were really good, really useful. Little 2-minute bites like why your kid hates you when you do this, or don't say this when your kid blah, blah, blah. And I watched enough of them, probably 100 of them, literally just for months, right? I'd check, I'd be like, oh, that's a good tip. And I would send it to you. I remember I sent you a few of them. And then, he has like everything was on Kajabi. He put he had like an online course, and then he did group coaching. It was all built on Kajabi, and paid him a fee for monthly access. There was WhatsApp access as well, so you could talk with other parents. It was amazing. It was like so smart. So you're right. You do have to kind of build it, and then they come. Yeah. How do you test along the way to know that what you're building, they're actually going to come? Because you don't want to build 200 videos and then find out like nobody actually wants your shit.
Well, let's dive deep on this. I think I was expressing some of this to you today. I've been doing this kind of, right? And it's not my most favorite thing. Like I told you, like I don't love making content.
Yeah.
I like executing.
So hard.
I like to see the result, right?
Yeah.
And I think part of that, though, I will say is what makes content selling the thing it is I don't want to wait around. I want to force the action with content, which in B2B has always been the lacking thing.
Yeah.
They're great at talking about themselves. They're never great at putting you in your chair, thinking about it and capturing you mid-thought, and all of a sudden you're in, right? Like that's where B2B could really learn from B2C. And quite frankly, where a lot of my attention's going in our own, like what we do, like where can we capture people?
Yeah.
Because someone is.
So I think about think about that coach, right? He's a parenting coach. Everybody who has kids goes through it, like most of us, unless you're some brilliant Zen master. You go through really hard times. Different periods of child raising are hard in different ways. And what he would do is say, like, when your kid does this, because he knows those pain points. He knows what it feels like when your kid gives you the finger or says you're a dentist and you can't get your kid to brush their teeth. And you're like, this is embarrassing, right? So he would talk about the pain points. When your kid does this, don't do this. Or and it's those things. So if you're honing in, I think, on the problem that you're solving for your customer. So if your customer, if you're 3PL and your customer is like, I missed orders and now I have to do all these refunds, right? Has that ever happened to you? talk about that stuff. Like, I think that's how you start to like build the audience, because now they see themselves, they see the problem that they're having in the content that you're sharing.
Okay, so you're talking about the right message.
Yeah.
Right time would be right when I have that problem.
Yeah.
So that's what we're talking about. We talk about signals, intent, capturing that moment, right? They can go to Google and say, but you want to capture them there, but even before then. And I think that's what content does is they go, you know what? I'm going to contact Melissa.
Yep.
She has been super persistent with me. Don't give a shit if it's automated or not. Like, I'm connected with her as a person on LinkedIn, even if it's an automated message. Well, your realtor sends you an automated Christmas card every year, right? And so it's not like it's that different. You just got to get them captured, stay in front of them.
Yeah.
But, and I think the but is for us too, how do you know that now that these people are following you, you're going to pluck them out over time from content, right? And I love this one thing I learned, which was when you have people in the middle of the funnel, talk about the problems they're experiencing on a podcast, on video, and then that's your post. Put it on LinkedIn, because then they're going to go, oh, God, it's going to really resonate with them. And you'll be like, yeah, because this is what we're talking about. Like, so you're sharing it with them, but being a little more general in a way that sort of reemphasizes it, and they can see that other people agree, and then they buy.
Yeah, we should do that.
Yeah.
I do, earlier when you said, do I look ridiculous in this? I kind of lied. You do look a little bit ridiculous, in a great way.
You look really hot. I mean, I can say that because you're my person. I do not look hot.
On Halloween a few years ago.
Off?
Sure. Yeah.
You want me to take it off?
No.
Dun, 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 dun.
Halloween a few years ago, we dressed up, and our son was like, was he Buzz Lightyear? And you were so angry. You really did not. So I appreciate you're doing this today.
I was wearing a tight shirt, and my chest was I was still fatter. I was heavier.
It was really tight.
I was angry because I couldn't breathe and I couldn't walk. And angry is the wrong word. Uncomfortable is better. But I did it.
For someone who is so willing usually to, I think one of your superpowers, in all fairness, you make people feel comfortable.
I look like the guy who licks the pole on a Christmas Story.
You're willing to look like...
Yeah. Yeah. And because I just don't care. I should care.
No, you look great.
Okay.
It's funny. It's
all
great. So talking about videos, and you're like, well, how do I know if my videos are... Right now it's hard. Does anybody care? Because we're all putting video out there, and we're all getting 6 likes, 16 likes, 70 likes. Maybe that would feel good, right? If you get a 70. But for those that are out there continuing to do the thing, how do you know when to pivot? How do you know when to say, like, this just isn't working?
Let me tell you about a little thing that LinkedIn released this week that I've been waiting to drop.
Ooh, you're going to drop this on me? I'm excited.
This motherfucking heat. Bleep that out.
We never bleep it out. We don't have time for that.
True.
We don't have budget for that.
LinkedIn is now showing you
accepting sponsors.
How many people have watched other people's videos. So now you can see other people's impressions.
What?
Not on their post, but on their video. Look at it. Pull your phone out on the bottom left. It can see how many people have viewed it. I'm like, that's how they're going to push videos. They're going to scare people into being like, I can't have people know I only have 74 views.
Oh, no way. And they'll just take it off? So if you're embarrassed, you're just like, my video only had 3 views.
I don't think people really even know yet. Like, I was scrolling through yesterday and I was like, oh my, like, this is new. Like, LinkedIn has never shared other people's.
Sort of like public shaming, a public flogging.
You can see likes on a post, but you can't see how many impressions on somebody else's post. So this is new. And I think they're doing it to make people want to compete, right? Because what do? You make people compete. All of a sudden everybody's making video, right?
Ah, that's crazy. Yeah. And, I mean, it makes sense, I guess.
Yeah.
It's like Hunger Games.
Well, I mean, not quite.
I've never actually watched that show.
Nobody's dying yet. This is just a feature change on LinkedIn, but it is a lot like death.
Don't ask me anything about the cultural zeitgeist because I have no idea.
Yeah.
Also, don't ask me any, I was always the last to know office politics or office rumors. They'd be like, I can't believe you haven't heard that.
Ooh.
This has been going on for 6 months. And I'm like, what?
Speaking of, you just have bad hearing.
That's true. I can't hear anything.
Yeah. Something that was really concerts. Cool. I was doing some research and I sent you actually a sleeper podcast this week of people reading episodes of the podcast. Or of The Office.
Oh my gosh.
On a podcast. And it's the most boring guy. And he's like, then Michael says this. And it was super funny.
Oh, wow.
He's like describing it and reading it. And I'm like, people are like cult fans. And I'm like,
and they love it.
Anything's possible. Anything's possible.
When Twitter first came out, my favorite Twitter feed, it was, probably 2011. I don't know. It's not when it first came out, but there was a feed around 2011, 2010, 9. I don't know, whenever it was. And there was a person who had a toaster, and it had like a Raspberry Pi or something connected to it. And all it said was toasting, done toasting. Toasting. Whenever the guy made his toast, it would tweet. And then when it was done toasting, it would tweet. And I thought it was the funniest thing ever. And I loved that account. So people love
How's he
really
doing today?
stupid things. I was like, this is brilliant. Well, maybe not, but I still think it's funny.
Let's talk about other channels. I mean,
Let's talk about something else. Literally anything else.
No, anything else would be good also. But I think LinkedIn is a very tame channel. Like if you look at Twitch, right? Kai, like the streamer who's been streaming for 30 days. Like the guy is a multi-millionaire, has Kevin Hart stop by his house, like
who's Twitch?
Gets looped into the Diddy rumors. Like Twitch is where kids streaming channel, right? So this guy, Kai, streams on all sorts of channels. Like good looking black guy, dreadlocks. I asked somebody, so what's so special about Kai? They said, he's always doing it. Like, okay, he's been doing it. He always does it. And now the guy's just raking it in, right? But his life must suck. Like all he does is stream.
It's like the Truman Show.
Yes.
Literally.
And everybody's coming to your house all the time. He's always got like 10 people in his house, like drinking and.
Oh, sounds exhausting.
Yeah.
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 Okay.
So I think he's making money different ways. Like we're out here trying to make it the old fashioned way. Like there is influencers are getting paid for what they're doing and what we do, which is like we work our service line all day.
Your tail off. Is that what you're going to say?
And then you work my tail off.
Yeah, right.
Yeah. Yeah. That was good.
Yeah.
That's pretty good.
I didn't even try. It just came out.
It's true. He's a hard boss. Very mean.
Uh-huh.
What were you saying?
I don't know. So you were talking about somebody, I thought it was a person named Twitch, but it sounds like it's not even a person, it's a platform.
Twitch is a channel. Yeah. Your kids
shows you how cool I am.
You don't need to know.
Pretty rad.
Because and I know who has the time for Snapchat? Like, I don't know what's going on Snapchat. There's probably a ton of money to be made outside of prostitution and drug dealing on Snapchat.
There might be, yeah.
But I don't know about it, right? Who has time for that? And what I'm saying is, you do if you have the people and the resources. I mean, people, when they hire us,
figure it out.
Get LinkedIn and a little YouTube and crush revenue, right? So then they're like, well, why would I need to do this other stuff? Mm-hmm. And I think that's a lot of it, which is like, God, this is so much time. Can I just pick two?
Yeah, go to where your people are at, and you're trying to.
But how do you find out?
That's a great question. Where are your people? Yeah. So, but let's go back to the pivot thing, because we were kind of talking earlier this week about businesses that started in unlikely ways, and you mentioned YouTube, which I didn't realize started as a dating site.
I didn't either. I was like, oh, okay,
that's crazy.
Yep.
Slack started as a video game company they had a video game platform called Glitch. And they developed an internal tool to communicate, and it ultimately said, this is way more valuable than the video game. Let's dump the video game. And they relaunched Slack.
And were they a bunch of slackers? Is that the whole thing?
I don't know. That probably, yeah.
Great movie, by the way.
Yeah, it's been a while. That's a flashback. I like it.
Yeah.
But yeah, there's a number of like companies that started in different ways. I got to pull
I should put some readers on.
Pull my readers on.
40 years ago.
Back in 1997, there was a company called Netflix.
AT&T, Marbell.
And they used to mail you a DVD. How incredible.
Hence the telephone.
And then we invented the wheel.
Let's go back in time, children.
We no longer have to chisel our names in our stone tablets. Thank goodness for that. It was so time consuming.
What a pivot.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. Anyway, a lot of interesting stuff. So I didn't realize Twitter started as a podcast directory service.
What?
Yeah. Yeah.
Jack Dorsey, by the way. Let's talk about him in a second.
Shopify was an online snowboard equipment store.
And they were just so efficient at it that they said, let's do it for other people.
I guess so. I don't know the whole story there. This is an old one. 1891. Wrigley was a soap and baking powder sales company.
Indeed. Go on. Carry on.
Yes. So interesting. Now they make chewing gum.
Wrigley. You don't say.
I don't even know. Do people even still chew gum anymore?
Not healthy people. Not Wrigley's Big League Chew.
Now they have.
It's desirable.
Now they have.
You also get the fake chewing tobacco and fake cigarettes for the children.
I do.
That's what you get for Christmas gifts.
I do.
For stocking stuffers.
I have fond memories.
There's the fake meth. There's the fake cigarettes, and there's the fake booze for mommy. Put it in my mouth. It's over. Yep.
It's true.
Another successful holiday.
I mean, we were West River kids in growing up. I mean, we didn't live in West River, which if you're not from the sticks, you don't realize.
Get mad at me when I say
it's
West
true
River.
though. Well, my parents are West River, and we would walk to the gas station.
Kind of like Alabama.
Pretty much.
Kind
and
of.
you'd get it was like jerky, but it was in a chewing can. You stick it in your lip, and we'd walk around. It was
actual chew. It's called Skull.
They just sell it to a bunch of 7-year-olds. Get it out of here.
You were looking at Playgirls when you were 10.
It's fine.
Oh, Alabama.
Yeah, we just cut our lips on. No, just kidding. It was like I have fond memories.
Your
of
cousins
fake
probably
cigarettes.
took a piece of glass, cut your lip, and then stuffed it in there.
They taught me to
don't be a
smoke
pussy.
and all the good things.
Oh man.
Anyway, so I do buy fake cigarettes because I think they're funny.
Oh, we're still sponsored by fake cigarettes, aren't we?
Yeah, we are.
Which brand?
Speaking of fake cigarettes,
Ooh.
Is it Parliament? No, those are real cigarettes.
JBH. Benson and Hedges.
Benson and Hedges.
Yeah.
For fancy people.
Yeah, those are not good gum. I mean, when you chew those and you get to the gum, it's terrible.
Oh, they're not. Most of them are gum. It's like a white powdery stuff. It's really bad, actually.
They have a little gum at the end in the filter.
Yeah. Anyway,
Maybe that's the marijuana chewable gum candy things.
Marijuana chewable gum?
I don't know.
That sounds interesting.
The candies and the kids these days.
Yeah. And anyway, so a lot of famous pivots over time.
The best one was probably, what do you think of all of them?
The best one?
In hindsight, looking back, who had the most successful pivot of all time?
Oh, I did read. This one's an interesting one. I don't know if this is the most successful of all time. You're probably going to throw out a bomb for me.
I think I know it.
Instagram started as remember Foursquare? Remember checking in places?
That's right.
How weird was that? We used to check in on Foursquare. But it was like a check-in app.
I did like that app.
And then after a while, people stopped using the check-in and just started sharing photos. And so then they
became photos.
Yeah, they became.
That's where the food photos came. They were checking into restaurants.
They became a photo company. How cool is that? Yeah. Do you have another one?
I like the business story. So let's talk business and timing. So Netflix obviously used to be in the what they are today business, which is like movie making business and content distribution. And I love where Netflix is at today, but they knew where they were going. When they were in the video delivery business, they were balancing this idea of when do we start streaming online versus giving people, and they were surveying people and trying to find out this perfect timing, and they fucked it up bad.
Yeah.
They were like way too early, and it was something like if they would have been like another month too early or late, they could have lost everything in the big bet against Blockbuster, because Blockbuster was also trying to put a streaming service out.
Okay.
But whatever they did, they made a pivot at the end and like cut off the old company and said, we're going all in on streaming, and said, sorry, we're just going to cut all you off.
Yeah.
And lose the customers so we can concentrate on being good at this. And when they did that, that's what got them to be number one today. And so like from a just pure story and hearing the CEO tell that on the podcast I was listening to on the way back from the Black Hills, I was just like, God, he has fun telling the story. Like, it's just like it was sport to him. I mean, he was very responsible about it, but like the whole deal was his, lack of a better term, legacy, you know? And
well, they certainly did bungle up that Tyson fight. All the Netflix.
How many million users? 178
went
million?
down like in the middle of all of that. I mean, even though the fight aside, that was. I haven't heard anything about that. Like what happened? Are they going to do another?
They're talking on podcasts, and they both, I think. They both made a respectable amount of money. And
well, no, I mean, what happened to Netflix? Like, are they going to do any more live kinds of fights, especially after that big disaster? That was kind of a mess.
I mean, disaster. People knew what they were getting.
Anyway, well, the fact that their company stream went down during one of the most viewed spectacles.
Hold on, didn't know this. Wait, the fight stream went down?
Netflix, went down.
I was sleeping.
For I don't know how many million houses. People had to watch it the next day.
Oh, well.
And then we didn't hear anything about it. Like, whoops, sorry. Maybe we'll just keep our mouths shut.
I hope they got a refund.
Yeah, no.
Oh, wait, they have a monthly subscription.
There's no refund.
Oh, my God.
Yeah, you didn't hear about this? Okay, well, Anyway, that was kind of a big mess. I do love hearing those stories. And you know what? The funny thing is especially in entrepreneurship, when you're told to keep going and keep going and keep going, and you do have to make responsible decisions like, should I really keep going, or is it time for me to hang it up? That's a hard thing to know sometimes. Like when is the right time?
Ask the people. Be like Liquid Death. Like, well, you know when to start, you know when to go. Like, I think you
are really good at that. I will say that is something that you do a lot. You'll throw stuff out there. I'll be like, we'll be talking about it. And I tend to be like, let's build a site. Let's build this out. Understand? You're like, no, I'm going to throw it. You'll throw a post out before I can finish my sentence and say like, does anybody want to buy this? Mm-hmm. Okay. They don't want to buy it. You're testing stuff all the time.
Yeah. Well, I think it's
testing
smart.
Offers.
And that's like the Liquid Death test. Now, it wasn't successful like Liquid Death where we just randomly, like, what did they say? They had a $5,000 budget for Liquid Death. They brought a photographer in. The guy worked for Gary Vee. How does the story go? He worked for Gary Vee.
I didn't know that.
He was his head of art, and he liked working for Gary Vee.
Yeah.
But he's like, Gary always said, like, you all, if you're successful, like, da-da-da, you know?
Right.
And so he pushed for that. And he said he had this idea where he loved heavy metal, death metal, and skateboarding, right? And he's like, we were just like, loved that art.
I wish I was that cool.
And we were like, what is something that everybody uses where we could get this art out in front of the world? And someone's like, water. And so they said, okay, great. We'll get the artist to come over. We'll wrap cans.
Yeah.
Not even paint cans. So they were just wrapped in the art, like really well wrapped, and took pictures, and they put a poll out on Facebook.
Yeah.
And I believe within 3 days, they had 70,000 community members, and people were like ordering the water before they even had made the first bottle. And they were like, I guess we're in the water business now. And like, why wouldn't you do that? Like, that's so smart.
You go where the energy is.
Yeah.
I bought an Iron Maiden shirt at a secondhand store with my kids. We were at a thrift store. And I just find it so hysterical, the artwork. I just find it really funny.
It's amazing.
And I don't, like, if someone was like, hey, I love your shirt. Like, remember that we were at like an apple picking orchard.
You also
and I
have
was
a Black
like,
Sabbath jacket.
I was
so,
like,
I mean, you look pretty legit.
I couldn't name one Iron Maiden song if I had to.
Well,
like,
most people can.
But either way, like, I wish I was as cool as, like, maybe most people are like that. Maybe most people are like, I wish I could be as cool as like Liquid Death metal, blah, blah, blah. But they just buy it. Yeah, you just drink the water.
Well, I will ask this. So Liquid Death is Liquid Death. Prime, Jake, whatever his name is, Paul, the UFC
whoever that guy,
that's his Gatorade competitor. It's delicious, by the way.
What is it?
Because Prime.
Okay.
Because they do things like whatever.
We'd like to be sponsored by Prime.
Whatever the trending flavors are, right? So like ice pop.
Okay.
Like the things kids buy and they're really into, like they'll follow the trend and they make those flavors. Don't ever do that again.
Yeah.
Make the flavors. Make the flavors.
I was copying you.
What were we talking about?
I don't know. Prime. You were talking about Prime. You were telling them they should sponsor our podcast.
Anyways, who's the next Liquid Death? And you always have to look at, like, what does Liquid Death not give you?
Yeah.
What could you do? I'd say put it into paper.
Yeah.
Get it into a box.
And test it.
And say, like, we're not Liquid Death. We're this, right? We're the recyclable, responsible water for conservatives.
We used to, when I did prototyping, we would often put up, we'd say like 2D and 3D experiments, where a 2D experiment would be like, put it on a landing page. See if people click I'm interested.
Yep.
If you get X amount of I'm interesteds, like, fucking make it, right? If nobody clicks like I'm interested.
Don't bring it to 3D.
That's a 2D model because it's not real. Yeah, right? So it's just like, hey, are they buying signals? Are they there? Or you could make, I don't know if it's still out, but there was a prototype on paper. There was an app that you could literally take pictures. You could draw what the app would do, take pictures of it, and make a functional app that would work and say like, hey, show people, how does this work? Would you click here? Does that sound interesting to you?
Wow.
And you could do these little experiments and let people see, do they want it? And if they want it, then you keep building. But you're not going all the way down, investing money, finding a designer, spending, $30,000 on a website and an app. Apps are way more than that. But
so anybody can pivot, though, you're saying.
So with a 2D experiment, with a landing page, you can throw up a landing page for nothing, right? For nothing. Listen to me.
Well, let's go, though. You got to get people to go to the landing page. So, yeah, sure, you can. But now how do you get people to go there?
Well, you can, use your social channels,
What if you don't have a lot of people on your social channels?
And you probably need to build that up a little bit.
Yeah,
what else would you do?
I think a lot of people have this struggle of like, I don't want to ask people on LinkedIn Get an email list, like get MailChimp and like do an email survey. We do Score App all the time, right?
Yeah.
I talk about Score App all the time.
You love it.
Love it because I did it once and I had 74 responses and I was like, oh my God, data, right?
Yeah.
Not, do you want to buy this? Like, hey, what are you doing? Ultimately, like what Score App is they're curious. They want to get something out of it.
Mm-hmm.
They're willing to invest 3 or 4 minutes to take your quiz. They get a ranking, you get their results, right? And then you give them like a bonus video. Like that's how people are buying.
Yep.
Versus like, I'll buy Magnetic for $5,000 a month on TikTok. They're going, I'm curious. I want to take the next step. Now you get to decide whether or not I'm qualified for you because the world's too big and you cannot qualify very well when there's millions of people. And I think that's kind of like where people could test is like, you don't have to pivot, but you can test these little experiments like we do with sales and marketing.
I love that. Yeah.
And if it doesn't work, you kind of go, well, maybe we shouldn't call it that. And that's what our whole podcast is about, right? And that's a be curious theme.
Absolutely. And you don't have to spend a ton of money to test. You can do that test and depending on where you are at in the stage of your organization. So if you're testing out an entire service line, you're probably going to have to spend more money to test that. If you're testing a new market, that's maybe, so there is sort of stages, right? But you can do a lot with the tools that are available right now and test all kinds of things to see if people are biting. And that's really what you need to know. Because that was one of the questions I had when I was looking at that Instagram story. I was like, well, how did he know? Like, how did he know? How do you know that like nobody, is interested? And obviously they were smart enough to stop focusing on building and say like, wait a minute. Let's look at the user data. What are they clicking on and using in the app? And let's do more of that.
So I'm going to pop quiz you for everybody live.
Oh, great.
Okay.
I love being
49
surprised.
days, 58 days?
I don't know.
Okay. Well,
Too many.
Feels like
not
5
enough.
years, right?
Yeah.
She won her first deal, by the way. She's a badass. Won her first nice big deal. Sub 45 days.
Thank you.
You get to keep your job.
As if you're in, I love how you like to pretend you're in charge of me. It's very cute.
Well, I'm in charge of nothing in my life.
That's
I live
true.
with you. And so like, I think I get that.
Yeah.
It's okay.
All right.
It's part of the deal. This is what I wanted to say. What did I want to say? It was something.
You were going to talk about.
I was going to talk about the new social media network.
No, but you should talk about that. What were you going to talk about? I was going to say user data. Like he was looking at the user data. He was stopping.
Yep.
And then and then I don't know what happened.
I think I just was looking
at. Should I put my glasses on again?
I know what it was. I get to interview you. Thank you. Okay. Well, and this is fine. We can edit into this. Okay. So let's do this hypothetically.
Okay. Let's do it.
You're very curious. You've polled our customers when you were on the board before this unofficially. You ask questions, right?
Yeah.
We're a services company. Not that sexy, right?
Yeah.
But still, we have to be profitable. We have to do new things and we have to have offerings.
Yeah.
And I know you're really keyed into that. How do you, what threads do you pull on? And when do you know to go a little bit deeper or not? Because you're very good at kind of always just tempering curiosity versus acting on it right away. How do you know when to act on it?
Well, you need enough data, but it's also when you hear people say the same thing in usually different words, sometimes same words, over and over again, right? And in design thinking, we use something called qualitative research, right? And it's really asking questions. Like today we had a conversation with the client and I was like, so tell me more about the specific tipping point, because, this kind of training could be used, next year, 5 years from now. Like it's one of those things that's very easy to say, I think it's important, but not
right now.
Not right now. On the grid of like, need to do today. And that's usually how an executive's thinking about things. And I was like, tell me about the tipping point when somebody says, no, we need to do this today. Like what happens or what is the trigger point, right? What's the event or the trigger or the understanding that they have that they now are going to go with you?
Yeah.
It's those kinds of questions that you start to understand the buyer and get in the buyer's mind. And then like you're understanding like that's the opportunity.
Okay, let me back up.
Okay.
So what is that opportunity for us? What have you learned? Is it anything? It's too early to say like, I think they want this. I think if we did anything more, it would be this. Or it's just more of the same. Is it leaning into one offering?
Yeah, I think there's too early yet. I think we have some threads to pull on for sure.
Yep.
I think so. So I used to interview caregivers, for instance. There was a project where I interviewed a lot of caregivers trying to understand. They were, taking care of mom and dad, usually in their 50s and 60s, sometimes earlier, and just trying to understand the pain points that they had, and I think I interviewed about 28 people in that range. It was sub 30, but close to that. And they would all say sort of in the same words, things like, I feel guilty because I'm not there.
Oh,
I should be taking better care, but I'm not there.
Yep.
So we built a solution to help alleviate their guilt, right? But what happened was it required them to do something and then they didn't show up. So what we found over time was, they felt guilty, but they also didn't have the time to do anything about it. So we were going to have to solve for two problems. But you start to hear things over and over again. And I like to sort of say you get a little bit of a spidey sense, and that's true. But the data is usually in front of you in words. If you map it using ChatGPT, if you interview somebody, take your Fathom recordings and plug it into ChatGPT over a couple of conversations and say, tell me the insights. What are my customers really telling me?
Yep.
Or maybe what questions do I need to ask to dig a little deeper and really understand what makes them want to buy? If nobody's buying from you, use your Fathom recorders when you're having a conversation with your potential clients.
For those people who don't know what a Fathom recorder is, real quick.
Well,
any recording.
I don't know you. No, I'm just kidding. It's just the AI recorder on your meetings.
Yeah. There you go. Meeting recorder.
Is it free?
Yeah, Fathom's free.
So you can record your client meetings if you have even a conversation with somebody, talking about what you do.
Your iPhone conversations now with the new iOS.
Yeah, that's
update.
weird. I don't like that. But yeah. So you can record those meetings and then plug it back into a Perplexity or a chat or a Claude or whatever you use and say, give me the insights and tell me what questions I should ask to dig deeper. Because not everybody's steeped into that design thinking training or knows how to ask those questions well. I had a team of people, and I would say training folks how to ask those questions well is a lot of work. And I would say most, it just takes, not everybody's great at it. It takes it's just a skill set, right?
Yeah, that's interesting.
But first thing, just look at your data. What do people want? What are they clicking on? I want more information. Or you can throw up a website that says wait list. Do they sign up for the wait list? That's a buying sign. Then make that thing, right? If they're not signing up, maybe you should try something else or build a different thing.
Yep. I think a lot of people would say, okay, cool. I'm going to DM you and I want to learn more about that because we are oftentimes over productizing, over featuring and misdelivering. I know that's something I've been guilty of. And I said, well, I just don't want it to be that. I don't want it to just be leads that they want. That sounds, that's like the lifeblood of business, right?
Well, we have a good business. And I think that's where it's hard because we've got clients, we've got great clients.
Yeah. Got a good
and
deck right now.
I think for me, I'm always, and you too, you probably even more so than I'm always thinking, how can we make this better, faster, stronger, bigger? What's the next thing? What's this attached? What can we attach to the side? Which shouldn't always do that. Sometimes you just need to focus on the main. This feels like therapy, but sometimes you need to focus on what the core offering is and do that really, really well over and over and over again.
Yeah. Well, I'd say what we've heard kind of as we wrap up here is we've heard other social channels are interesting. We have ourselves sort of brought the idea to light of Blue Sky, which is new, million users a day, right?
So cool.
Wide open. Don't really understand it. It's Twitter.
Don't know what it is.
Jack Dorsey.
But we're on it. Yep.
So we want them there or aware of it. And I think if we could do anything and say, well, maybe if we went to every client and said, we want to add one more social channel, right? And we would say, and it's really this is the one we're learning. Because talk to me about that in closing. How do you plan for next year in terms of, let's say I come to you and I go, Melissa, I can get us 2.5 million, but we got to get really good at YouTube, so good, the best of the best.
Where are we going?
Yeah.
So, there's two schools of thought. There's the one school of thought that says get really good on one platform and then migrate to the other platforms because you can bring your audience with you.
Yep.
There's the other school of thought. So that is go on all the platforms, do all the things and see where you get the most traction.
Yeah.
They're both wrong and they're both right. I think it's just whatever is right for your business. So you have to decide. For us, we've been on LinkedIn and YouTube. Not a lot on, mostly you personally on YouTube and Magnetic, right?
Sure,
so
a little bit.
we're trying to figure out. So next year, YouTube for us.
It's hard.
All in YouTube, all in on LinkedIn as we're continuing to do that. I am excited about Blue Sky just because there's not I feel like there's open space there for us to really build a good foundation. So we're definitely going there. I'm Twitter curious. Like I'm also watching the fact that like it may or may not be there. Maybe they're in a different form, so
TikTok.
Yes.
Oh, you said Twitter.
Did I say Twitter? I meant TikTok.
Yeah, you're TikTok curious.
I'm TikTok curious, not Twitter curious. X can.
Well, I think he just bought a media channel there with Exits after.
Yeah, So totally. Yeah, that was a total media buy for Sir Elon.
That he got what he wanted. Right? Yeah. So now the people say,
now
well,
he can use it for his
Twitter.
PR, his own personal PR engine.
And Dorsey was like, hey, you missed Twitter? I'm right here.
So I think for us, it's continuing on doubling down on YouTube, continue to do LinkedIn because that's where we've always been, Blue Sky, and then just learning more about TikTok. I'm really curious about that marketplace because it's a millennial and Gen Z platform.
What about ads?
And we need to be cooler in that space. We need to find some cool millennial Gen Z folks
ads?
to work with.
Are you interested in ads?
Yes, very much so.
Okay, what about that's a lot.
It's a lot of things. I'm interested in a lot of things.
Yeah, you're looking at like growing into like level 2 agency of like, okay, million done, let's go to 1 to 10.
Yep.
Because that 1 to 10 goes quick.
Yep.
What about HubSpot? Do you want to be CRM centric? Do you not care?
I don't know.
Okay.
We'll see.
All right. Wild.
TBD. What
you
about
learn
you?
A lot in a small amount of time. What, next year?
Yeah.
4 things on my mind for next year. Number 1, I want to buy a farm.
That's a terrible idea.
That's number 1 on my list.
I know you do.
Number 2, social. I want to get really good at YouTube playlists.
Yep.
Playlists.
Samesies.
And then I want to like teach people and charge them a lot of money to get really good at it because it's very hard. And I think it's also very easy, right? And I think the personal story there for me is like, that's how I got like something solved in my life. And I think once you've got that, you're like, I want to change other people's lives. I'm not talking business. Like how can we look at it as ourselves? And then number 3 would be how do we become, call it more of a record label, right? Where we get to kind of approach the businesses we want to work with, start taking more revenue share. I mean, we just got our first big revenue share coming on the board. Like I want one of those every week.
Yep.
And I want to find businesses that want long-term commitments where we can help close that into number 4, which is like, trusting in us. Like I trust in Blue Sky. Like I'm going to go to Blue Sky and probably not make traction for months, right? And so that journey is going to suck. But I'm going to invest in it enough to say like, okay, in 2, 3, 4 years, we'll look back and go, God, we're so glad we went to Blue Sky when we did. We are the number 1 person in our category there. We met some cool people and our lives have changed, and I see that happening. I think that's why we both feel kind of called to it.
Yeah.
In a very that sounded very churchy, but.
I always like swimming upstream. I said to someone that my autobiography would be like, something about a salmon swimming upstream because I do I'd rather go where people aren't there yet and build something out than try to elbow my way through a crowded space. I mean, I can do that too. It's just not as fun and it just takes longer. It's possible. I feel like I'm doing that a little bit right now on LinkedIn, but it's possible.
Yeah. All right. Well, 2024 was interesting.
Okay. Yeah, it is.
Okay. Well, we've had how many, we're in the mix
Episode
now.
7. Here's what we did. Here's what we talked about. Merry Christmas. Happy holidays. Happy Kwanzaa.
I don't even know how many seasons we do. How many episodes
Happy
in a
Hanukkah.
Season? Yeah. We're almost halfway through maybe.
Yeah. Well, we're excited.
Wow, this is flying. 2025, watch out. We're coming for you.
We're coming for you. All right.